diese Folie sind für dich freigegeben, mach mal. Wie spreche ich das an?
Das geht nicht.
Muss ich das über Switch ansprechen? Sind das dann also
wir haben jetzt keine, bisher jedenfalls nicht, das ist so, wo man auch so ein bisschen hören im Markt, ob das wirklich gewünscht wird. Wir haben noch keine Protokoll, wir es ja aber Top 3 machen wollen, ne? Über das Teilprotokoll, das haben wir noch nicht, weil das wäre jetzt keine so große Sache. Kann man integrieren, aber haben wir nicht. Aber über Switch wäre
das Testen nicht ganz sicher, weil das von der Serverversion her nur das ein Preis ist das so für einen selben Preis wieder.
Ja, das ist ein bisschen mehr, also 500 Euro mehr. Habe ich gesagt, das wäre jetzt ja nicht so.
Okay.
Haben Sie noch mal eine Karte? Also,
eine Karte hat sich aber jetzt nicht mit.
Wir haben ja auch schon die E-Mail miteinander. So zu erinnern.
Nächste Woche dann.
War das gut? Es sind ja nicht so viele Leute aus dem Betrieb.
Nein, an sich ist es. Ich bin jetzt mit zwei Kollegen hier, die schauen sich das näher an, mein Chef und halt einer von der technischen Entwicklung. Und das sind extrem technisch, fast extrem technisch aus.
Das ist einfach Tastatur. Kannst ja nicht gehen.
Okay?
Alles gut.
Wie lange geht denn heute Abend wohl die Sitzung danach?
Wir fangen um 4:30 an und wollen aber auch so 4:45 fertig sein, weil dann wir auch einige weg müssen. So, über PDF wollen wir dann auch nicht mehr so viel reden, haben wir jetzt gemacht, 2 Tage. Insofern, und also sind da mehr so formale Dinge. Jahresbericht 2013 und so, die bereiten. start. Most people are here. So now welcome to this session, which is basically 2 sessions together. So Carsten Heiermann, Managing Director of Luratech, and I now also have the role of Luratech, as you can see on the shirt here. So we will do it now as a Luratech sessions to show Luratech solutions around it. And yes, we have 2 sessions together where we tried, or we'll do this with a, let's see how the time will work with 2 sessions. So the first part, let's say 45 minutes, should be around scan documents. So we really want to split into the 2 worlds because there are different issues and also different presentations, and we have the hope that it makes it a little bit more practical and also a good mix of slides and practical demos. So I will both times introduce a little bit the topics, the generic things which are around scanned documents, and then Carsten will pick up, and for each block he will give us a practical presentation of the PDF compressor so that you really have a hands-on how this works, how this can be done with PDFA in a real-world product, so that you really see a solution here. So this is the main idea what we want to do. I will try to be rather short in order to have more time for Carsten and his presentation, and in the first session we also had a nice discussion, so we also hope that we will have a good discussion here. So yeah, I have introduced myself, so we will start with a block scan to PDFA with OCR. So basically, here's just a nice piece of paper. I can find it. So you start with some kind of paper. This may be this one, obviously this may be a big folder. This may be your digital mail room, so where you scan all your incoming paper mail in a large organization or even in a medium organization. So this is a main application of scanned documents, where you typically have, on the one hand, the main applications are the digital mail room, so all the incoming paper mail is in most organizations digitized today now and then moves digitally through the enterprise. And on the other hand, there's a lot we see in the day-to-day operations, a lot of digitization projects, whether it's government, whether it's industry, where they have lots of paper in the cellar or somewhere in the archive, and they want obviously to benefit from all the things which you have with digital documents, so fast access, not moving around the paper. So this is a main applications, and so this is scanned documents. So we scan a piece of paper. Obviously we are on the PDF days, so we think, and most customers are doing this already since 9 years, to convert those as PDFA with multiple benefits I will present. And then in the title there's OCR, because that's also what we see in day-to-day life. This is one of the major benefits also, that you really have from a scan, which if you just scan, you basically have a dumb picture or a pixel image, and obviously you want to have this as a business document, fine content, fine text, and this is where OCR comes into the game. We start with a short look at the old format. So Frank had them also on the slides. I do not want to blame them, so obviously, so they are just pretty old. So TIFF is over 20 years old, very, very old. 30 years nearly is the last specification. I looked to this was 1993, the last change of the TIFF specification. Also this famous misunderstanding, TIFF is not a standard, it's still owned by Adobe. It's a de facto standard. I can agree on that, I will not argue on that, but it's not. If you look for formal or de jure standard, it's not. And then a lot of customers, so Frank displayed it from a user view very nicely yesterday. So if you have the normal documents, then you typically go for TIFF, which means black and white, and if in case it must be color, then you typically use JPEG. So those are the, I would call it the older formats, and there are often special versions, so also want not to blame JPEG. So if I do a picture here from this room or from the show, JPEG is wonderful, but honestly it was never designed as a document format. The idea was to have one image, one file, and in business even this small flyer is 4 pages, so we want 4 pages on that. So that's it. And you have a lot of disadvantages, so you have already 2 formats, you have TIFF and JPEG in your archives, and you may add the whole format zoo of more digital documents. You lose information if you go for black and white. You have to, to die one death, so either you have a large image with good quality, or you have a bad quality and an acceptable file size, especially with JPEG. and you have no metadata. You have heard this already, PDFA can do this, and you have no full text searchability, at least not in a standardized way. So with TIFF, I have to be honest, you can do it in the TIFF file, but then you're doing private text. Your company, your organization, your IT department understands it, but if you send it to somebody else, you may fail already. And also you can do it obviously in the surrounding system, but not directly in the document. And this is why this is the first slide. So this is what we see after 9 years of PDFA, and we have even done scanned documents to PDF before, that this is one of the major benefits. Very often you start, you say, okay, when I do the digital mailroom, this is years ago, so people said, okay, I just do the image and I move it, but this was basically the paper process still, where the paper went through a dump pixel world, but now with full text searchability, you really can find this document has, I don't know, 100 pages, and you are looking for a Heiermann, so it immediately jumps to page 35, and this is the point in the document where you want to work with that. Then you have also heard it, and this is also a major benefit of PDFA for scanned documents. You can compress or deploy modern compression algorithms, which helps especially then for color, but also for black and white. So then for TIFF, we had, I don't know, in the last year, 2-3 questions. So customers called us and said, hey, our TIFF files are too large, can you help us? Luratech is the expert on compression. No, no help, sorry. There's nothing in TIFF, so LCW, okay? But that's it. So there's nothing where you really can do this, and this is what makes PDFA a good and modern format. So compression algorithms are allowed, are integrated in PDFA standard, and typically, we had this discussion in one session, ISO tries to reference other ISO, or at least other formal standards as much as possible, so to stay an open and reliable standard, and those are the ones for black and white documents. It's a seldom one, I would say. JBIC2, most, or if you have not heard of this, don't feel bad about it. It's really a secret standard, I would say, somewhat, because in theory there's a file type .jb2, but I can look to all your servers. I bet I will not find one file of this. Matt may have one or somebody like this when I look to you. But it's really, really seldom. So, but it was designed as a successor of TIFF G4. It's typically used embedded, so it's in PDF since 1.3 or 1.4. I'm not exactly sure. And this makes it, and the pictures give you the size comparison. So this always goes for a A4 or letter size, which is very similar document. So this is the normal size, and if you do it in pure TIFF, it's 60 kilobytes. That's what you all know from TIFF files. If you have a normal document, and then you can do the lossless thing. So JBIC2 offers lossless and lossy. Lossless is, as a rule of thumb, 2/3 of the size. So this is what you reach on the average. And if you go for the lossy mode, you can reach half the size. So those are the rule of thumbs, and good to remind. And we also had some experiences, and we, for sensible and most critical documents, we strongly recommend lossless mode. So because the lossy thing has some issues where you may, if you have a very bad scan, they may flip some characters, and you don't want to have this for sensible documents. So the normal default, and that's also the default in our PDF compressor, is JBIC2 lossless, which gives this benefit. And we have some customers where they said, okay, compression is our highest priority because we have far lines to, I don't know, Africa, to Asia, or something like that. We have to go to send documents to ships. So every byte is money, and then we can also accept some problems, but the maximum. But please keep in mind the default should be lossless. Then when we come to color documents, and this is really state of the art now, so it starts really with a scanner hardware. So nowadays you can only buy a color scanner from any hardware vendor. I always give the question, try to buy a pure black and white scanner, and at least as of today, I'm pretty sure you cannot buy anyone. So wherever you buy Kodak, Canon, whatever the companies are, you get a color scanner. Those scanners are also pretty fast, so this was an issue when I started with Luratech 10-12 years ago. Then color scanning was in theory possible, but for production purposes it was much too slow. And now we work very heavily with Kodak, so you can have a piece of paper, put this on the Kodak, choose 300 dpi color, and it goes like hell. So the hardware is typically not the bottleneck anymore. It's more the software components which come afterwards, which really have to catch up with the speed of the current hardware scan. And then PDFA allows the main compression things, and this is basically also the main slide of the Luratech thing and also the method. So it's called the MRC compression, which stands for mixed raster content, and the base idea is not as JPEG. If you have a complete image, you compress everything the same and everything gets bad. So for a typical business document, the most important thing is that you obviously want a very good quality on the text in the business document, and you want an acceptable or a good quality on pictures, graphics, whatever is in there. And this is the idea, to take such a page, split it into 3 layers, which are within one file. If you will see it by Carsten, it's still one .pdf file, but internally you have 3 layers, and we will also see how you can switch that. Basically it comes down, you have a black and white layer of the text, so and this one is lossless. You have the colors, where something here like this one or another text part is in color written, and what is image parts can deploy image compression, and this is for the more technical interested ones. You see the the methods which are used there. So for the text you have either TIFF or JB2, which I just presented, or for the image part you have JPEG or JPEG 2000. And if we look to scanned documents, this is one of the major changes or functionalities that PDFA Part 2 deploys or allows JPEG 2000. This was not a general issue, so I always like to say JPEG 2000 just missed the train. So the first train was PDFA 1, and the train started with PDF 1.4, where JPEG 2000 was not integrated. It came just one PDF version with 1.5 later, and therefore it moved into Part 2.
What about an OCR text layer? Is it also possible for MRCs?
Yes, basically you can think logically this is a 4th layer where you have the individual text which is sitting behind the pixel. So this, good question, this is still pixels here. With a sharp form, but it's still a pixel, and to make it full text searchable, from a logical point, it's very good to think like you have a 4th layer, which really adds then the invisible text and makes it full text searchable. That's what I wanted to add this with the best practice. So the best practice here is that running projects typically deploy PDFA 1, so if you have a running scanning production, then users typically do not change. And what we see, so new projects starting, then typically the best practice is PDFA Part 2 for new scanning or digitization project, and then it's to you, but this is up to you.
Up to me? Okay, good.
You, no, not yet.
I'm gonna pick
I mean to show PDF to you then.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, and then here you have the size comparison again on the A4, so you have, TIFF color, 300 dpi, totally uncompressed, approximately 25 megabyte per page, much too large. No way to handle that. This is the reason why TIFF was chosen, gives you a very nice acceptable size of 60 kilobyte per page. If you have JPEG, so there's a little bit marketing here, but you see the effect, so as JPEG compresses everything, then the text gets unreadable, which our human eye can still assemble together, but an OCR engine may fail on that because the quality is too bad, and with PDFA and modern compression, you really have the best quality with a very good file size. I have 2 small samples before Carsten takes over, just to give you an idea, and also I like the way how customers have deployed it. So the one is a German bank, it's called Heiermann, so it's a rather big bank here, and what I like to emphasize always is that they went this project way, and this is what we see with a lot of users. So Heiermann was one of the earliest users of PDFA, so they really started in the middle of 2006, and to my best knowledge this was one of the first production users of PDFA. And there was a project just from the normal business lying on the day. We have our archive with 20 million pages. We have to digitize that. They saw there's PDFA new. They did some research, analyzed it, and came to the conclusion, okay, looks good, we will do this project. Then they collected good experiences on that. So then the next logical project and step, which is also the project order in the organization, was to say, okay, we have our incoming mailroom project, and we made good experiences with PDFA, so the next logical project, also PDFA, was a format of choice. And later on, this is now 2-3 years ago when they started, and this is what we also see when you have the paper under control, I would say, then you start thinking, hey, when you think of complete input management, we also get more and more mails and should do something about that. So that's why Helaba now went to email, so you see this logical order, and this is also something I would say is really a best practice on that. And they have the, typically benefits, so they have full color scans, and even banks want to scan in color. I was surprised. I thought it's only small text, black and white, but there's enough information, important information, which needs color scanning. They have the high compression benefits, they have full text searchable, and they have a complete electronic credit file these days. Another one would be from the government, and again you have the similar sample, so it's the city of Erlangen, which is in southern Germany, but also the government, this was now some years ago, they had a very small project, paper resident registration, so this was boxes of small cards where all the information was in there. As I said, we want to digitize them. Hey, that's a nice starter project to get some experience, to try a little bit of those PDFA, try the tools, and then this was quite successful. So then the next step, this was really, for a city, it's strategic construction files, so all the houses, all the buildings, all the bridges in the city, so this were converted to PDFA, and now they are in the broader context of in Germany, but also in other countries, we call this e-government, or government calls this e-government, so you really want to go digital on every area, and this is really where they're still on the way, so it's not a plan, but on the way, because it's a longer way to reuse PDFA for all digital files, and the same benefits basically applied. So in summary of my first part for the scanning to PDFA, so Carsten will hopefully also show this in practice. From our experience, this is really straightforward. We discussed it already yesterday a little bit, and in Germany it's even a no-brainer. So as much as we can see, new projects, new digitization projects really go for PDFA. We discussed this in one session, so we have at least in German-speaking countries that typically tender from a government. So if you are a scan service bureau, if you want to do the job for the government, want to take part in this tender, then PDFA is a required output format. So if you cannot do that, you don't need to bid for that. And the reasons are not only for PDFA, so they have the full text searchability, you have the compression, which makes really nice, and documents which can be good to be handled. It's an easy thing, as Carsten will show you, so we have some testing we have set up, but we're not talking projects as 100 man days and 1 million euro in licenses, software licenses, so there's some costs, and obviously it's always good to have some tests and preparation and setup, but then typically the production should run as a software thing, unattended, in the background, and convert, depending on your volume, from 100,000 per day up to millions per day. And we always like to emphasize that the ISO standard PDFA does not define quality and file size, so this is something where you want to look when you look for tools. Carsten will show that. And there are also, which is also a valid PDFA, if you do a simple JPEG into a PDFA frame, it's still a valid PDFA. So every validator will say it's okay, it is okay, but it may not be the result, the document which you really want to have in your organization as a high quality and good business document. And this is basically the workflow of the PDF compressor. So you scan, typically it's a more sophisticated scanner than this flatbed one, so something like, take again the Kodak machines, and you can have multiple formats. So where, from a Luratech point of view, we recommend 300 dpi, totally uncompressed, and PDF compressor can do the rest. This is TIFF for sometimes for practical reasons, because you maybe have a network in between. JPEG is an appropriate format where the compression should not be too high, so we say quality level of 90, or you can have a scanned PDF, put it into PDF compressor, And this is the point where Carsten will show how this works then in practice. Any questions so far?
I just want to ask, which engine do you use for OCR?
We have integrated the EBI engine, and we have done this, help me, 2005, so 9 years ago.
About that.
Yeah,
But
something like that. All our customers are very happy, and we are also very happy with that. So it's really one, you know, there are 3, 4 OCR engines in this world. We evaluated them, we came to the conclusion EBI is best. We believe in that since 9 years. And EBI produces an excellent recognition quality. The price of EBI is, you should know that it needs some time. So I don't know when we have a sample, but it's maybe something like a second for the compression, but then 2 seconds for the OCR. Or even if you have a bank document with the general terms very small, it may go up to 7, 8 seconds. So this is a little bit the price of EBI.
Do you send the whole image to OCR or only one of the layers, this text layer?
just wait a second.
Okay.
That's what Carsten. Okay, Carsten?
Okay, good. Yeah, thanks. All good questions. I'm going to return to the OCR question as well.
In case of PDF, when you put the PDF into the compressor, do you keep all the information in the PDF, I mean interactive features that are allowed in the PDFA, or you just create a kind of a TIFF image from that and do the rest like it was a TIFF image?
Whatever you want. We're running to different settings now.
Okay.
The PDF compressor, you know, I need to demonstrate you now how scan to PDFA works in a PDF compressor. This demonstration is 30 seconds. But I got the chance to fill probably 15 minutes or something like that with my demonstration because there's so many options in the product as to what you can do. Take an image out, optimize it, and keep the bookmarks alive as they are. Throw the PDF away, just take the images out, construct a new PDF, and you know what? I'm gonna show you. Okay, good. It's all in. So I'm gonna be gone now behind this monitor, so. But you see what I'm doing, okay? And by the way, try your very best to interrupt me. Sometimes I get carried away a little bit, but try your best to interrupt me when you have any questions. And I'm also somehow fluent with that tool and might be able to show it to you immediately, what your question is about or something as an answer. So, switching to Windows now, because first and foremost, the PDF compressor is a Windows service. It's running as a Windows service, it's doing its job even if nobody's logged into the computer. This installation here is, I guess, a Windows, what is it by the way? 7 or something, I don't know. You can run it on a server operating system, a client operating system, that doesn't really matter. As the version 7 of the PDF compressor, that is just at this moment only running as a service down here, is a full 64-bit implementation if you like it, thus being able to also work with really large files that we sometimes come across in scanning, and not only large in terms of maps and plans, but also large in terms of people start to firing 20,000 pages document at us, which was impossible a couple of years ago. But with the full 64-bit implementation that we have now, 32-bit as well available, we can also work on that document, and we of course then would recommend to use a 64-bit operating system to make use of that. The last component that we were waiting for to be 64-bit, to be able to deploy a full 64-bit solution is what? The EBI engine. EBI engine 11 just came out in full 64-bit, and the day we had it in hand, we started to work on version 7, and now this thing is available start to finish in 64-bit. Okay, good. This is a little too small to present the whole PDF compressor, so it also comes with a GUI. The GUI tool is not really doing anything, just setting up the jobs, right? It's your configuration tool. You can sit down if you want to use it that way. You can also use it without the GUI on another way that I'm going to introduce a little later, but with the GUI, it's the most easiest and straightforward way of doing it. So what you actually do is you take one of these, what we call jobs, in the PDF compressor, and the PDF compressor can handle many, many jobs in parallel. And each job comes with, in the most easiest setup, each job comes with an input folder, let's say, as well as an output folder. And in between this input folder and output folder, there is 1,500 settings to influence what you're doing with your PDF, what your desired output should look like. So we're talking about scanned documents here, now the 30 seconds. In order to create high compressed, scanned, full text searchable PDFA output, you just throw your scanner images immediately into an input folder of your choice. You make it a watched folder that is monitored to pick up everything that comes new into that folder. You select where you want to put your documents, and that's the most complicated step in that, probably. Then you select the desired output format, and if it is 1A, 1B, 2B, 2U, 3B, 3U, whatever it is that you have to do, those PDFA versions, that PDF parts of the standard, as well as compliance levels are available in here, as well as regular PDF as an output format. You go to the OCR page here and say, okay, why isn't it? Oh, it's because I'm in the wrong job, I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. This is the more digital job. This one I want to show. So again, input folder, output folder, which is now no output folder, just places the results next to the input files. PDFA2U in this case is selected. OCR is applied. We use the fast mode of the ABI OCR. So these are the ABI options basically. There's 190 different languages. We just don't put them in the standard download package because that would be a lot of time to wait for it to download. If you have any need to have more than these languages, it's a free extra download where we provide a link to you, and then you've got all the 190 languages that you might know from ABI. Beside putting the OCR result into the PDF file as a searchable layer, as we call it, it's not technically correct, but it's a searchable layer, as we call it, you can output it to any other format that is supported here in this list, including XML, plain text, CSV files, whatever it is, HTML. If you need those extra output to probably feed your database or do other indexing purposes or something like that outside of the files. We can output it to Alto format as well, that is for cultural heritage specified format by the Library of Congress, and some others. But I said it's easy, so I'm gonna go ahead and say we want to do the MRC compression in terms of how big the file should be. And here we could also select to just simply use the input images and wrap them in PDFA containers and make them searchable. We can say do it for the fine print, it's a special setting for checks here, do it standard, and what we do in this case, we use the factory defaults. Just MRC compression, boom, done. Nothing else. The job is set up, basically. All the other options are advanced in a way, and the only thing you do is, in this case, I have no watched folder, but I go through one folder one time at this very moment to convert a single batch. You just hit the run button. And it's starting. It's showing that it is running on 2 CPU cores down here. I allocated 2 CPU cores to the virtual machine here. You can have licenses, scale the licenses, defining your throughput. We have customers using their full 24 cores they have in their server or something like that to put some speed in that, but you can also, of course, select to use multiple servers with less CPU cores. It's a structure completely up to you, and you saw it ran through, and now we can take a look at the result. In this case, what we did is we mostly used samples that are either uncompressed TIFF, RGB, which is just making the effect a little bit more dramatic of the compression, right? So it's super big to super small. 25 megabytes per page, that was the average that Thomas introduced. But we also have a couple of TIFF group 4 files in there. You can see it by the file size over here. A 66 kilobyte page is somehow indicating that this is a fax group 4 TIFF, which it is in the end. And above there we said place the output file next to the input file. We got our just recently compressed PDFA files, and probably opened some of them and compare the size. So we have this invoice sample here, and we come in from here, and I'm going to show you the original first. Even zoom a little bit into that. And we constructed this sample especially to introduce a couple of problems in terms of compression in that document. For example, these background lines here, borders, go through characters at all places here. So when you compress that with JPEG you end up with pretty bad halos around that here, making it really hard to apply an OCR to that jobs here. Okay, this example is a little bit constructed, of course, but you have that all the time. Yeah, print over red formulas or red forms, print over there. It happens all the time in health insurance claims and all this kind of stuff. So it's constructed, but it's also real world on the other side. And you see it's a pretty crisp and clear, obviously, uncompressed 25 megabyte in size scan of this single page. Okay, now the result that we have here is the PDF file. First and foremost, this PDF file is still full color. We take a look at how good it looks in a second. It's just 41 kilobytes. And this is not the compression effect only, but this is the compression, and we applied OCR. So there's some room reserved also to put the searchable characters in there. The compression is even higher. In fact, I'm going to show you a list of sample files in a minute where we compare the sizes with and without OCR and everything else. No. Okay. Look at it. Looking at it, I think you will have a hard time finding a lot of differences. There are differences, of course. And sometimes when you have a very good projector, you see that, and I can at least point you to that. So you would see some difference here in the background. The background looks a little bit unsharp compared to the original. And that's right, that's what we use. That's what we use to make the file so small. We use that because we do the layering. And I'm going to show you the layers, and then you will see what it is about the layers. First of all, maybe let's take a look at that. Yes, it's the desired PDF A2U file, as we said in our settings. And here are the layers. And again, this is not something that is special. This is built into every Acrobat reader and other readers. It's a standard PDF feature to have this so-called optional content with the layer switches here. And we just use this mechanism to place our segmented 3 layers that we compress individually to achieve those high compression results. The difference between the layers is we have this background layer where we put everything in that is photorealistic in a way, or a continuous image or something like that. So switching off the background, you'll see that those things go away, right? Most of them is background, it's constant. Constant images, constant flow images, you can do with JPEG, Joint Photograph Export Group, right? Photographs, constant things like the clouds in the sky, right? It's constant, you can compress that with JPEG, and we compress it even with JPEG 2000, which is giving it a little bit more compression ratio at the same quality ratio, but we compress it really hard because the eye can't tell a lot about whether this is a bit more purple or less purple. Color detection for the eye is almost impossible. And for our business document, it's also not that important. We want to keep the original look and feel, obviously, but we allow ourselves to compress this really hard. While the net information is in the foreground. And again, the foreground is completely separated from the background. You can see that there is no leftover of this line here going through the characters. It's totally crisp and clear. And as Thomas suggested, we use lossless compression for that black and white layer. The only missing information that we still have in here is it's not black and white, it's colored, right? Because the text, the sharp edges, the stamps, and borders of columns and tables and whatnot might have a color. In many cases in scanning, it's just gray, because you never turn out to have a real black after scanning. It's gray, it's color, or something like that. And that's when we have the so-called foreground. It's not on here, we can only switch off the text color. The text color layer, the foreground layer, that's where we store the information. What color has the text had before? At this moment we see the text layer and the foreground layer. And when we switch off the foreground layer, we see it's completely black and white. Completely black and white, sharp, crisp and clear. Now the question, what do we put into the OCR? You can select. Yeah.
Select.
You select. Yeah. Select whether you put this in here or the full color image in there. We have a study, by the way, that was done from an independent how is that called, consulting company in the document management space, Pentadoc, for some of them, you might know them. Pentadoc did a study at a health insurance company where they found out that feeding this black and white layer, which is not only black and whitened, bitonalized or something like that, but which is also segmented from the background, right? It's totally crisp and clear and cleaned up from all the rubbish. Feeding that into the OCR instead of something that came out of the scanner software in black and white, which would have all the remains of this here in there, in some black and white dots in here. This resulted into saving 15% of the workload of OCR correction after the fact. So it was an easy invest, an easy ROI. So they have some servers sitting there just creating black and white layers to feed them in OCR. Okay, I think we got it with the layers, how we separate them. We compress them individually, still keeping the net information completely lossless, ending up with a file of 44 kilobyte in size. And as I said before, these 44 kilobyte in size include already the OCR, because this is already a searchable document. Full color, 300 dpi, and that's what we end up with. A couple of other examples, and running also through the different parts of the standard and what we could do. Again, I used the same example. You're familiar with that, I am, so let's reuse it. And ran it through the different options that we have. The first option is something like we just did what Thomas just mentioned. We created JPEG out of that TIFF. Was just something single JPEG and wrap a PDFA container around it. The result is, I can show, but however, the result is, you know that from JPEG, at least that the file in size, when you make it good quality, I'm gonna show it. Okay, I'm gonna show it. It just looks good. Okay, it's a good thing. But the result is that the file size is still around this 220 kilobyte per page, by the way. That's a lot. That's a lot. Ending up with a scanned contract might already put you in a position to exceed your email limits or something like that. So at least it really makes your archive a lot bigger. Then the next level that I have in here, again with the same file, is a PDF-A1 file. Difference between PDF-A1 and PDF-A2. Thomas said it, one is based on PDF 1.4, JPEG 2000 was not there. The other one is based on PDF 1.5 or later even, JPEG 2000 was there. So we can, in PDF A1, only use JPEG for the compression. Again, I created all these files to look absolutely decent, to look absolutely okay. Another difference is you won't find the layer switches in here, though the layers are in there. Because PDF A1 was very strict and said optional content, and that's what it is forbidden. There's only this one view on things that is allowed, so don't start even thinking about switching layers on and off. It's not allowed. Was a bit too strict, and therefore in PDF A2, all of a sudden optional content was allowed because many engineering and other departments need that, and we also need it for our layer switches. So layers are in here. It's an MRC compressed using JPEG for the background layers, for the color layers, background and foreground. And it ends up to be a file in the size of 38 kilobyte. Still very good. It's not searchable. Thus it's a little smaller than the file we had before. The next level, and I don't need to open it. I created them all to look alike. The next one is a PDF A2 file, now using JPEG 2000 for the color layers. And it's getting smaller, it's 32 kilobyte in size. 32 kilobyte in size is probably the optimum around that, what you can reach for a full color 300 dpi page in size when you keep the color as it is. Looks the same on the inside, I can tell you. JPEG 2000 compression makes it smaller, and this one has the layer switches again. It's the one we saw in the other example that I created live. Next level, I added the OCR to it. OCR now, and you can see the difference. It's the same file there. The number 4 is the same file as the number 5. 32 kilobyte in size, 46 kilobyte in size. So you can see that the OCR layer, as we call it, the OCR searchable text, takes some significant room in files like these. And still the result is, I think, very small and comparably small. Okay. That's about the file sizes, about the different PDFA standards. By the way, when somebody asks you what PDFA, what is it, part and compliance level should I use for my searchable documents, we suggest to use PDFA2U. And why is that? PDFA2U allows for the most advanced compression scheme in there. And secondly, the Unicode helps you a lot with the searchable text. So when you do your typical copy-paste thing and the euro sign turns on paste into a rectangle, then you haven't got a Unicode file, right? So when you use Unicode for the text layer, you are pretty much safe or safer on that side to have missing character issues, missing glyph issues and stuff, or misaligned font sets and whatnot. So we recommend PDF-A2U when the file is searchable. When it's not, you can use PDF-A2B or something like that. We totally do not recommend, by the way, to use what people started to do in the first place, where they said, we're a good company, we only use the best PDF-A, obviously, and therefore we use the compliance level A. The compliance level A is about tagging, it's about storing the semantic information into the file, and you can create a PDF-A file from a scan and make it pass every validator, because the only thing you need to do is put an alternative text in there for the scan image saying, I am a full page scan of an image, or I'm a full page scan or something like that, which is syntactically correct towards the standard, but absolute nonsense. It doesn't make any sense to put it in there. There is no semantic information in there. If you want to have semantic information from an image, from a scanned image, somebody has to sit down and put it all in and say, this is a headline 1, this is a headline 2, this is the reading order, this column, then that column, then that column, and stuff like that. It's just not available per se from a scan. So why claim to be semantic information in there when the only semantic information is I'm a scanned file? So it doesn't make sense. So we do not recommend to use compliance level A, the small a, in PDF-A for other PDF-A 1A or PDF-A 2A as well as PDF-A 3A. Doesn't make sense in scan. Okay, now I did a little longer than the 30 seconds I promised, but we already took some site tours and exercises, and that's what I'm also willing to do a little bit more, because when it comes to scanning, the normal standard conversion is pretty easy to set up. We saw that in the beginning. It's a couple of clicks and done. But when it comes to scanning, other things are interesting. Things like, for example, as I have it here, like metadata. I might open it with some editor. Metadata sometimes comes in, when it is archival good, that metadata, it has to go into XMP. Now, don't be shocked, it's an XMP file, it's XML code and whatnot, but I can point you to a couple of positions here. This is the way to store metadata in a file. You use an XMP file, put it in there, and then it goes into the core metadata where it belongs in a PDF-A file at the right position. So for example, we have a scanned image of an empty red box, so we have a couple of metadata in, like where's the content, or some keywords in there like box, red, empty, and something like that in an XMP. And when you take a look at the PDF compressor and the job again, it also allows for embedding. Embedding is a big thing, not only with PDF-A3 where you put arbitrary files in there, not only with emails where you structure it like that, but that's the second part of the presentation, as well as with XMP. The sample I have here introduces XMP, and what you end up with is the scan, or in this case photo, of the empty red box, obviously in a PDF-A2B file, again with layers, but also you have the properties ready in here. Here's our XMP data embedded in there. Now, the PDF compressor does not only handle these couple of standard metadata that PDF comes with in there. It also allows for XMP extension schema, so when you have your metadata in Dublin core or in your company specific way or whatever it is, we can transform them into XMP and then put them into the proper place into the PDF-A file and make them part of the archival good that is in the PDF file. So, and that is as well very easy. You just say, pick it up from here, put it there, and done in the PDF compressor. Another thing that is totally related to scanning is barcodes. Barcodes are used very widely in scanning, and they are used to organize your high-volume scan processes. So you are not going to scan a document like you do it at home. Scan one document, save as, create a file, scan the next document. But what you do is you put a pile like this in your scanner, and at 600 images a minute, it just scans it all through. Now, how do you separate your document? The first 3 pages, the next 4 pages, the next 10 pages. And in scan service, this is mostly done with barcodes. And here's some quick example. Of course, the PDF compressor, I said it handles all and everything around your scan processes. Here's a simple example for barcodes, and you can probably see there, the first image there, or the first scan, has a barcode on top. This is a barcode sticker, sometimes used, sometimes separator pages are used where the barcodes are on a separator page that needs to be thrown away later. Sometimes it's just sticky note on the first page of a new document, and then you put unstapling and everything, document on top, barcode. Next thing, unstapling, on top, barcode. And then you know when you run it through the scanner by the barcodes where the document borders are, where you separate. Pretty standard in high volume processing, thus the PDF compressor has to handle it, obviously, and does it. Here's the next barcode. So we should end up here with a document that has 3 pages and another document that has 2 pages when we run this through the PDF compressor and take a couple of settings. A couple of settings again are, when we go to the OCR page, there's also the detect barcode page. And I use that example to show you that you also can widely influence your output. In this case, we do influence our output by using the splitting up there. Split the document into a new one whenever a new barcode is detected. Can be a numbered barcode, can be a specific barcode, like when a code 128 barcode is detected and not the others, to avoid being trapped by foreign barcodes or something like that. And we also use output file renaming here, which is another very powerful built-in tool. You can use everything in the PDF compressor that you have gathered as data at any point, from input files, from import files, from XMP, or from searchable text, barcodes, or whatever, using those wildcards in here. And then with this wildcards, you can create something that says %F, and behind this here you'll find all the explanations for that, which is file name, and then a dash, and then %V, and that's the value of the barcode, the last detected barcode. So we should end up with a file that is, when you remember the files, 3 pages that says whatever, %file name, whatever the file name is, minus, and then the value of the barcode that we just read on that page can be used to structure that file. And then there is a long list of other wildcards, how you can structure your output files with different options that you gather throughout the processing. Let's quickly run it. And look at the output, and here we are, 1149. Ooh, we gotta rush. Okay, you see it's 2 documents in there. They have a certain value. They have this 5 pages A, which is the file name that was created from the directory by merging that into there, and then the barcode value in there. And when we quickly open the document, you see this is the barcode, and here's the file name. So it's matching, and it has those 3 pages as expected, and the others has 2 and the same name. So just really, this is again one feature that is used in scanning very widely. Other features that are used in there, not so much for PDFA, but for other output, is security settings. I'm not gonna show it to you, just point you to it. Security settings are both on the input, because at some points you might be in the situation that you need to convert password protected or change permission protected files from PDF to PDFA, let's say. At that point you must have the password in order to open and read it and change it to another format. You can put it in here, you can put it in job files, job lists. Gonna show that other mode to automate that a lot around it. So on the input side, PDF security means basically being able to handle security and open it and whatnot once you have permission and have the password. On the output side, it's a little more sophisticated. PDF security, that's page here. On the output side, you can apply the standard PDF security functionality. This is not the digital rights management system or something like that, but the standard features like open protection password, change protection password, print protection password, and all the things that you can put in here. And while we are on this site, another thing that is sometimes surprising is you can also totally influence with your PDF file how it opens once you click it in your, for example, in this case, especially Acrobat Reader. You double click a file and how does it open? Sometimes you see page thumbnails on that side and a big view of a full screen view of page 1 of the document. Sometimes you see page 1 of the document cut so that it fits the screen, just the upper half or third. Sometimes you see the bookmarks on the left side. Sometimes you see nothing on the left side. And how's that told to the reader how to do it? It's put in the files. You can set it in here in the PDF compressor to say the navigation tab, which is the left side, shows the page only. The page layout is cut or full screen or whatever. You can set it all in here. And this just to introduce you to the fact that all the options that you can use with PDF are a couple of mouse clicks away in this tool. This is used in many different projects. Yeah.
Linearization?
Yes, of course. Of course, but where?
Advanced muss das sein.
Fast Web create linearized PDF. Oh, it's the first on the list. Great. First on the list, create linearized PDF. Yeah, very important. First page view. Yeah, it's very important. I think it's a very important feature. Yeah, got it in there. Good. Other questions?
Can you show us barcode settings?
Yeah, sure. Barcode settings is here.
So you're doing through OCR barcoding?
Yeah, we have in this product, we use different barcode engines. One barcode engine we use is the Abbey engine, comes with the OCR. Advantage is no extra license cost. Another barcode engine that we use at Luratech is the QualitySoft barcode engine. It's a German product, very, very widespread use in the scan service industry and so on as well. Here you can do a couple of things to handle barcodes. The biggest thing in splitting documents using barcodes is that you detect foreign barcodes. There might have been a barcode on that page already, and then you stick your barcode on the page, or there's a barcode on page 2 that doesn't belong to your sticky barcodes, but it's just there, so it will be read by the barcode engine, and all of a sudden you cut a document in half. You don't want to do that. So what you normally do is, when you do not use separator pages, which is the securest thing to do, it is put a separator page on each 4 pages of a document. Another not sticky barcodes, but really separator page. Those separator pages can be detected, and by the way, the PDF compressor immediately eliminates them from the output. So he throws the separator pages away, and you end up with the same output, not even seeing a barcode that was sticky note on the first page. If you have sticky notes or sticky barcodes, you can say, we place our barcodes always in the top left corner, and whatever is on the page in terms of barcodes, don't care. You can as well say, we use code 128 barcodes, and all the code 39s that are there, or the others that are there from food packaging, and you know that, just ignore them, just don't read them, right? So that it makes the process using barcodes way more robust.
Okay.
That was your question? Okay, good. Yeah, other questions? We have a second turn as long as I stop. Go ahead. Okay.
Okay, so this was a scan part, a little bit too much time, but I hope we can make it. So now we turn the world, so we now go to the Born Digital world, where I again want to introduce a little bit, and then Carsten will take over and show how it comes together with a PDF compressor. So you look to PDF compressor, you have seen at least the Born Digital job already there, but also for the sense of this workshop, we wanted to split this a little bit. I guess I will try to rush a little bit, so I want to cover some aspects of everything to PDFA, which brings us to the Born Digital world. And then obviously you have heard it already these days, email is a special but very interesting topic here. So this is the main idea, the goal of also this. The slide is pretty old, we did it in 2006 or so. I still think this was a base idea. At the end, it may be a good thing to have everything as PDFA in the archive. So this is maybe a good thing for users. So you have a synchronized archive, you have safe and stable documents in your archive. And if you remember my sample, so for the users, for the organizations, this is obviously a step-by-step way to go there. So we have covered on the right, on the middle, the scanning part. And I hope you have also seen this is really straightforward. It's controllable, easy to do. And then now the next steps are that you really want to go maybe with your internal documents where the Windows application is there, so that you also say this is what you want to do at PDFA. Whereas this is always important, or I like to emphasize, you want to do it at the right moment in time in your process. So obviously PDFA does not want to replace Word. So as long as I'm working on a contract with Frank, for example, as I just looked to you, Word is wonderful, we do change marks, he does change marks text, but at some point in time we say, this is a contract we want to sign. So this is a good point in the workflow to make a PDFA and put it in our archive and in the Hook archive. So this is what I always like to emphasize. So here it's very easy, so you can obviously convert this. Just a short touch to the hostings, that's not the Luratech part, but just to know that you know that a lot, at least I know the German companies, and there are solutions like Compart, for example, where you just, if you're insurance and bank and do millions of letters to your customers, then you just have a hook, and then you also have a PDFA document in your archive, and this is also very used already. And then the incoming thing is the email. So at the end you want also to have the born digital documents, whether it's an Office file, whether it's an output file, whether it's PDF itself, which may also come from an external source where you want to do some validation that you have everything converted in a safe and long-term PDFA format. And we discussed it already in the days. If you like to do that, then signature is obviously available. Also a good functionality of PDFA that you can embed a signature, and then you have a safe document for viewing, for printing, or for exchanging with other business parts. So here again is a little bit the when point which I want to emphasize. So just I mentioned it already, the workflow. So we do not want to replace the Office programs, I covered that. Also for forms is also the same thing. So as long as the form is dynamic, it's good. It has a changing date as a simple example, and this is a normal PDF, but when now I sit down, or Carsten sits down, completes the form, then obviously it should also fix June 17th as of today, and should not go on tomorrow to June 18th, because this is a filled form, and this is what you want to have as your business document in the archive. With emails I have more on that. So obviously this is also here the process as logical thing, just to give you some ideas. There's much more behind that. So do you want to do early conversion, so already when the email comes in, or do you want to do a more late conversion? Do you want to leave it to the user, or do you want to do a central conversion? So don't forget it. So we will obviously focus here on how to make a nice PDFA out of the email, but there's obviously a lot of processes, organization around, so please don't forget that. Then the validation. So over the years I want to share some simply what we think is best practices. So really, do you need to validate every incoming external document, or is it just with samples? Or start with the bottom line, because we just talked about scans. So here our best practices is we do not really recommend that you validate each file. So as you have seen, especially with PDF compressor, we recommend things like what we call a process validation. So Luratech or other vendors will tell you, yes, we do 100% PDFA, but you're okay if you say, I want to check this, double check this. So, but then you don't need to check every scanned document. So if you have set up the scan production thing with the scanner, with the settings of the scanner, with a PDF compressor, and then it's a good idea to have some samples, and then you use a simple tool. So for the single or sample validation, we think Acrobat full version pre-flight does the job perfectly. So you have one. So this is where you just want it, and then you may just want to validate again if something changes, so you get a new release or you get a new hardware, things like that. But there are also cases where you want to do everything. So I love the example of German savings banks. So they have 400 savings banks in Germany, and there's a central IT company. They are responsible for the archive, and they say, okay, the savings banks claim to send PDFA, but I really want to check it. and this is the reason, and then this is where validators come in, where also Luratech has a validator where the savings bank service provider really checks every incoming document, because he's responsible for making sure every document in my archive is compliant to PDFA. And also a short notice to migration, because there's also very often a question and also a best practice here. So as much as we love PDFA, I would not recommend that you're excited and go to Airbus back tomorrow and then convert the whole archive of 100 million TIFF documents to PDFA. So this is not the thing, but the best practice here also is, if you do need to do a migration, which is not a thing you really love to do, but sometimes you have to do it because you change the hardware, because you change the document management system, and basically you touch every document anyway, then this is a good point in time to think, okay, if we touch every document anyway, then we may also convert our TIFF archive to PDFA, and by this get benefits like searchability, like a safe option. And a little bit, how do you do that? For just to give an overview of this, so you have some type of product. So for the validation, verification, or evaluators, this was your word of yesterday. That I said pre-flight, or there are other PDFA validators where again we will recommend that the ones from the PDF Association are the good ones. Then you have tools for creating born digital files from scratch, where in the simplest user case, also Office is supporting that, so you can obviously save as PDFA a Word file, so that's okay for single documents. I do it every day in my office, but if you think of real server production environments, that's obviously then really you have conversion tools which convert, which also can handle maybe CAD files. So this is one thing what you need to think about, whether this is low volume, you do it on a workstation and you look for tools for that, or if you have enterprise high volume, then we really look for server solutions like PDF compressor, which then can convert born digital documents. And we have other examples here on the born digital area. I think you have heard, so I may skip this a little bit, but this brings us a little bit to PDFA3, which has a lot of use cases in the born digital world. So the famous example here in Germany is really the electronic invoice, where you have the good old image which can be simply printed and paid, and the XML data. So this was the first use case, and we see this in project. The second one, and this is also what Carsten will demo in a minute, is that you really go for email conversion. So this is what we see here, and just to an introduction here to say that obviously you can convert and archive emails to PDFA, and this slide also mainly mentions, and I want to just say it at least, that there obviously is more when you do email management. So you have to think about policies, organization, workflows. How do you integrate this in your digital mailroom, or you may have a complete input management platform where you also handle the paper and the fax. You have security, spam handling. You have to integrate this into a digital folder. So Mr. Bartonitz from Optimal Systems is here. So if you run a system like this, then obviously you want to put this in the whole context, and obviously at some point in time you want to find this. I guess everybody knows the base mail thing, header, body text, and the attachment. Where we just said in the first session here, the interesting discussion, and I like this, you will also see this. So the header information is also goes into the PDFA file, and I guess not every product is doing this today. So there may be more products who can convert a mail to PDFA, but the header is always also interesting metadata information, and then we have the whole world of attachments, like documents, like batch, like zip, everything you can have. And how can you organize this, and what are the changes or challenges? So obviously you want to save the emails, and we can have a long discussion. What is really the email? What I see, what even different mail clients may have different views. So let's say common sense is that what you see in a normal mail client, this is likely the business document, or what you would simply print, is the one you want to archive, and then you need to take care, this world is changing very fast. This is where PDFA comes in, and this is what we have now as a kind of best practice, to have this dual strategy approach. So on the one hand, and this is also what Frank in parts presented yesterday, that you really save the data stream. This also depends on your company organization. So very often you do what some people call hardware recalling. So you have a real box and every incoming mail goes there. So even the spam and the virus mails, depends on your organization. If you're a bank or maybe insurance, just your compliance department may say you must do that. And then you have this, but this is not what you really want to work with. So this is all mails, so you mainly have compliance rules. The ones in what I like to call the net mails, so the real business mails, this is what you want to save and convert to PDFA, so as digital printouts, and this is what Carsten will present in a minute. And also we like to say, so today is the best point, so you can do it late after processing of some weeks, but if you do it very late and then there are maybe some issues, so the born digital world is also a little bit more tricky. So with scanned documents, if you have a production set up, then you typically have 99.99% where every document goes through. So this is typically, but you can easily imagine with born digital, you cannot have in 100% expectations. There will always be some exception, some ugly file which comes in, some very bad PDF which cannot be converted. So this is something where we want to come close to 100%. Obviously, when you do the conversion and you have 50% of manual rework, this is not acceptable, but you should have the expectation that it's not like scanning always in 100%, but obviously you want to reach 97 or 98%, something like that. It was PDFA3, and this brings us then to the email archiving. So I think after yesterday and today everybody knows now what PDFA3 with a container is. So you can have the container, and this is the thing what makes your choice. So you have a lot of choices, but you have to make the choice with a PDFA. And I have some personal preferences, so your decision may be a different one. So on the one hand, and you will see that when you use PDFA1, then you have everything of the mail, whether it's the text, whether it's the attachment, goes into I would call it linear or sequent PDF. You lose a little bit the content, whether this was the original Word or whether this was the Excel attachment. But this is, I call it for the purists. So this is, if you say PDFA3, I don't like this, maybe dangerous, things like that, then this is really the solution there. Then you have PDFA part 2, where you can have PDFA and PDF. My personal opinion, after now talking and discussing about this for a year or even more, I think this is something, when I look from the email point, it's something intermediate. So for scanning to you is fine, but if I look from emails, my personal opinion is something intermediate. So either you're a hardliner or a purist, or you go the full game. So, but that's my personal opinion. So there may be other opinions, but then I'm really a PDFA3 fan, and here you can really embed everything. So you have really, and Carsten will show you this, you can convert the whole email in a safe long-term reproduction. Has PDFA files, but you have also the original files embedded, and if you want to do it, you can even embed the full .eml or full .msg file, which was really from a user discussion, so we did not really think about this idea, but this user was a bank user, a large German bank. He said, basically I want a safe representation of my mail, and this is where I will work 97%, that's fine for my archive, and just in case there's a real trouble case or something too, then I'm fine, I don't need the full list of attachments, I'm fine if I have the complete .eml file also available. And then in the seldom and rare case in my organization, in my bank, that I need to dig into that, then okay, then I do it. Then I spend the effort, but for most cases, I'm fine with having the plain and good PDFA3 version. So this is how it is. This is a PDF. Yeah, this is the sales pitch here. We shouldn't do that. No, just to give you an idea, because we wanted at least to mention this, to say what the models are here. So for the PDF compressor, so Carsten showed the functionality, and it comes in different models. So we have the If we start from the bottom, you can either choose the scan or Born Digital. You have the basic, which is one time, which we see a lot in typically scan projects. So you have 1 million pages to digitize, and you can have a license for that. And the other models are where you have the standard, where it's unlimited and core-based. Or if it's a smaller application, you can have the advanced version. Or if you have high volume, you can have the high-end versions. So, but now we want to see the Born Digital things, and Carsten will present the samples.
Okay, thanks, Thomas.
Yeah.
Am I right that we got 20 minutes left?
Something like that.
Okay, good. I'll try to make it 20 minutes now. Good. Back to Windows. And back to the PDF compressor. And with Born Digital, we're almost there to know how it works in terms of setting up a Born Digital job in PDF compressor. It's more or less the same thing, just a couple of different settings. So again, you go in there, and on the input file, on the input tab, you select your input folder, which is the Born Digital one now, with having the Born Digital samples in there. All the other things like merge, split, watch folder, whatever, is all the same. What's not the same is that you might allow or look for, which I didn't mention so far, a couple of additional formats in there that you want to convert. So with the raster images, the scan, this job was looking for TIFFs and not JPEGs, and you can do that to use also to structure your job, your workflow in a way to convert all JPEGs but not the TIFFs and whatnot. But with Born Digital, you should obviously allow for Word, Excel, and all the other Born Digital formats, including emails at some times, but this is not an email job, it's an extra job that I'm going to show you. The output in this case, I did show that before, is PDF A3B for whatever reason. Other settings are, in this case, not that interesting in terms of compression. Is something when there's no compression to do in Born Digital, we compress images, right? Not Born Digital files. We do a simple conversion job in that sense. That's about it. It's good enough, at least, to have a job set up. And the Born Digital conversion here has an input folder, and in this input folder are a couple of different formats. Word, PowerPoint, some PDFs, scanned PDF. No, these are both Born Digital PDFs. There's also a text file and a JPEG in there, and we leave that behind because I set the job up to not convert text files and JPEGs, but it's just a gimmick. Okay, good. Run the job, and what you will see is it doesn't say compression in OCR down here, but it says converting, and some of these documents have a long list of pages, some of them don't. And we are already done. And in this case, the job is set up to have a separate output folder. Those two are left behind. These were not on the list of formats I want to work with in this setup of the job. And the output that we have here is what do we expect? A list of PDF files, obviously. So when we take a look at that, I don't know, a presentation feature list, let's say, of the PDF compressor. Oh, that's the old logo, I shouldn't have done that. Feature list of the PDF compressor here. It's a multi-page document, and it's a PDF A3B as we specified it. No layers, obviously, it's not a scanned document. But what we have in here is a couple of bookmarks. I didn't mention that before. PDF compressor as well handles all the bookmarking stuff. So when you want to use the bookmarks from the original Word document here, chapter 1 and 2, create a bookmark in PDF, and immediately jump to chapter 2 here. That's another option you have in PDF compressor. I'm going to introduce a couple more options during the presentation here.
Does it only work via like folders, or do you have something like that I can call a web service from another application?
Yes, I have, but that's here, and I'm only here. Good question. I'm going to answer it. Okay, that was a pretty simple, straightforward Born Digital job, and I'm already on page 2 now, so we're getting close. The results are, as to be expected, it's a list of PDF files. You could have as well merged the documents together. use all the other options that we had in here. We can even use barcodes on more digital documents to structure something. And don't tell me it doesn't exist. We have seen everything out there. So people do a lot with different documents and different setups. Another thing that I want to show you at this point here is a Born Digital job that has also scanned files in it. What does that mean? So we recently, with the version 7 of the PDF compressor, introduced what we call an automatic mode. An automatic mode we implemented for multi-channel input mailrooms. So why would you like to set up a job in PDF compressor that handles the scanned files, separate from a job in the PDF compressor that handles incoming emails, separate from a job that handles incoming faxes? Or even more difficult, if you get that from somewhere, why would you start to sort it out by hand, copy it in folders and let it be processed with individual jobs and job settings, where the end result of all of that is, I don't know, PDF A2B or something like that. So you could as well have an automatic mode, which we haven't had before. We implemented that, and what we do now today in this automatic mode is we run it in full automatic if you like, and the real big difference really occurs when it comes to PDF files. You don't know whether this is a scan, whether this is a Born Digital PDF or something like that. And what we do is we look into them, and not only on the document level, but even on the page level. Look into those PDF documents, analyze the content, and then treat them the best we can. For example, if you have a document that is this typical 15-page contract, where everything is starting out of a Microsoft Word, and you have a Born Digital PDF document, character encoded, the best you can have in terms of accuracy and printing and whatnot, and just the last page was printed out, signed, scanned, and added to the document. You have a mixed document. This mixed document now, with the automatic mode in PDF compressor, will be treated in the best possible way. The first 14 pages will be PDF to PDF8 with the Born Digital option, still being character encoded, having all the options in there, searchable font, set font, and vectorized font and whatnot. And just the last page we detect it is a PDF coming from a scan, and the last page then will be MRC compressed, and if you like OCR and everything else, and you have a document that you end up with that you can't do it any better. It's fully searchable, including the scan part. The scan part is compressed. The OCR, the character encoded part for that reason is not rasterized and compressed, which was the excused way you had to do before. We did it on the page level, not only on the document level, but even on the document level, it's a throw everything at this job and do PDF-A something out of it for mailroom scenarios, let's say. So, not super interesting to run that through, but as I told you, I'm going to put some evidence behind that. So what we have here is another set of input files, and here we got that, exactly. It's TIFF files, here's character encoded PDFs, it's Born Digital PDFs in there, and it's Born Digital documents, all in one folder. And we have the setting put to automatic down here. Still, you can force the PDF compressor to not take decision on its own and say, I don't care, do everything and never rasterize the document. That would mean keep everything as it is. It will end up with a Born Digital document, with a character encoded document, a PDF-A output, and the image is not compressed. It's just a component of the character encoded document in the end. You could say, always rasterize. That is forced to treat everything as an image. You could use that, for example, the workarounds where there are documents that you just can't handle. You can't get hold of that font that needs to be embedded. Still, that page needs to go to PDF-A. So the last and final resort is rasterizing it, compressing it, or whatever, OCRing it. That's the final resort. If you want to have a clear 100% OCR, you can force that. This always rasterize is more or less for those, I don't know, 1.5 or 0.5% of the document that can't be converted directly to PDF-A. You end up with a folder. By the way, that's also another setting, will be sorted out in a separate folder, and that separate folder can then be ran through automatic as a cascading next level of job. Running on the error folder of the first job is a second job that says, okay, in case we can't convert it, we're going to rasterize everything and then convert it to PDF-A, and then add up with 100%. You can even merge the output of the second folder into the output of the first folder and have an automatic cleanup process running in the PDF compressor without ever doing anything. It can be set up completely automatically, cascading the jobs. So that's the mixed mode, the automatic mode, and yeah, when you run it, the only thing you will really see that is of interest is that down here, sometimes you see OCR, sometimes you see conversion, digital conversion, then the OCR again, sometimes you see compression blinking up there, which is the shortest part in this conversion here, and it does with every page of every document exactly what's best, right? I think that's pretty unique in the market. We haven't seen another product offering this automatic mode, treating every document 100% perfect, every page 100% perfect.
I have a question.
Sure.
So you said when a font is missing, you rasterize.
Yeah.
How do you rasterize without them?
By replacement. By replacement. Sometimes it's not the font that is missing, sometimes it's other transparencies or other issues that you need to resolve, and rasterizing is always the last resort. Yeah. The viewer will display something, even if the font is not there, something like that. You're not going to embed a substituted font, but better rasterize it at that position. It's sometimes. It's a workaround that is known as a fix-up, as other products call it. This workaround is a known thing that we, by the way, would also not like to apply then to the full page, but then to a section and then of a page that is not convertible, and then at least OCR it so that it's full searchable in the end again. Okay, automatic mode. Other questions? No? Yeah, samples in there again, I don't know. What is it? It looks the same. We used the merge option here. That's another thing I didn't introduce before. So when you use the merge option, it merges all images or all documents with all the pages of a folder in it into a single output document. You can use that, for example, again, when you have a folder per document and put all single pages in there. And then the folder name is the name of the desired output document, and the pages are just pages of that new document. We use that here, and therefore all the documents are in the, this is a scanned document, and you can see we have layer switches in here, and they do something. Then when you go through the pages, this is a scan, this is character encoded, and when you use that, there's no layers, right? So there's nothing to switch off. It's one PDF A3B document, and again, it's using bookmarks intelligently so that you can jump, now that it's merged, from document to document using bookmarks in here as we merged all the documents together. Okay, that's the automatic mode. I think it's a pretty good innovation to just make things a whole lot easier in the mailroom with the different input channels. Zugwert, I have another example. It's a born digital conversion. Probably not run it through, just really quickly show how you do it. You saw the image of the XML attachment in the PDF file, and I think I don't have to show that, but how do we create a Zugwert example? You throw your input files into the input folder, or let's say you throw your PDF invoices out of the ERP system into a post-processing folder to create Zugwert invoices. And what we do here is we use file embedding options. I told you before, file embedding is a big thing in PDF A3. File embedding is exactly what we do with Zugwert, and we have a special mode for Zugwert, no questions asked. It's just Zugwert, boom, done, and it will create a Zugwert invoice out of that XML, and that is associated by file name or something like that to the file, and does it in one step. Of course, the embedding can be more complex and more difficult, where you pull attached files from other folders, where you pull attached files from naming conventions and say this belongs to this based on the output of where it comes from or something like that. But for Zugwert, it's pretty straightforward. You just say, I want to create a Zugwert invoice, and it switches automatically the output to PDF A3, which is required. And there's nothing said in the Zugwert standard about whether it should be PDF A3U or PDF A3A or B or something like that. We again suggest to use PDF A3U, again for the reason of the Unicode encoding of the fonts in there. Okay, I think you saw a Zugwert invoice before in this 2 days. No reason to show it, but what I want to show is the email conversion. Now, email conversion is again another job. You can export batch-wise or however your emails probably EML files or MSG files from your mail servers into, again, a folder structure. We call them always input. They end up there, will be picked up automatically, probably with a watched folder again, and then have a job setup that includes, obviously, the email down here as a format, as formats for email that are read by this option here. And then on the output side, again, PDF A2U, and we have a couple of defaults that we can use, but we also have, again, a couple of options. So you can structure your email output just as you want them. Our default is, now whether I get that together, a default in case of PDF A1 is all the body and then all the attachments 1 to Z with their first page to last page go in a linear PDF A1 file with all the pages one after the other. That's the default for PDF A1. The default for PDF A2 is that we do the body text into a PDF, the body of the email into a PDFA file, and then attach all the attachments converted to PDFA files again as attachments in PDFA2, so that you have almost the same structure, just all PDFA. And the option for PDFA3 is something that I requested to get changed. And the option for PDFA3 that I would like to have as a default is that we have, wait a second, that we have the same as the PDFA2, body in the master container, let's say, PDFA as attachments for every attachment, and plus one more attachment with the original EML file. But you can configure, especially in the case of PDFA3, configure it as you like it. Attach the originals in original and just the body in there, because I don't care about conversion of the attachments, which is not good from my perspective. You could do. Or do all the other things. Attach the original attachments, convert emails in a linear stream, to PDFA in a linear stream, do the EML, don't the EML, it's all in there. You can configure it as widely as you want, as well as you can configure the appearance of the output. You can even say, I don't know, we only care for attachments that are Word, Excel, PowerPoint. And if somebody sends a, I don't know, a JPEG from his last holiday, we don't convert that, right? So something like that can be done based on the file type selection in there. Could also be used to filter out the emails that you can, for sure, perfectly convert. And the other formats that are probably not supported, there's born digital formats out, have you not heard of? Yeah, I don't know, from any kind of machine protocol kind of thing, it's a born digital file, we can't convert that, sorry, never heard of it before, so can't convert. So you can use that to filter it out and say, in case of I touch an unknown attachment that I can't convert, at least embed it as original file in the PDFA3. We don't know anything about that, but at least don't throw it away or something like that. So that can be used here as well. Yeah.
Question. How do you deal with images that are included in the email? For instance, the logo.
Yeah.
That is actually not an attached document, but that from an email perspective does look like an attached document.
Yeah. We put that in the email body. We put that in the email body because the email in that case will be HTML in most of the cases. We have a reference in there and we render that HTML page of the email using WebKit. Yeah, as easy as that. And in that case, we end up with a perfect PDFA having the image in the position as the HTML wanted to have it. Right? So that's what we do. And by the way, that also points at it that we do not need for this born digital conversion either Outlook or any other mail server, mail client on the server to open up that file. We open them ourselves and render them using WebKit in most of the cases. Text we render ourselves, and the born digital conversion and everything is our born digital conversion. So we don't need any client software to open or handle something for us. And yeah, having said that, as easy as that again, run it. And we had this one EML file in here, which we see at some point. Conversion is already done. No, it's not. It's still working. Just wait a second. Picked up slowly. Now it's done. And have it in the output now. And in this case, what did we do? Somebody catched up what we did do? we created a PDFA2 file. In that case, I expect exactly that. So the PDFA2 file, our default mode is that the body goes in here as the master container PDF file, and the attachments go in the attachment list, and PDFA2 only allows PDFA attachments, so no wonder we end up with a structure having PDFA attachments in that master PDF container. I don't know whether we used it or not, but I think we might have a couple of bookmarks again in here, and altogether it is a PDFA2U file. If we have, no we don't, anyway. I have just here, yeah, exactly, one more sample. Where is it? PDFA1, 2, fracture, barcodes, I put it down here probably. Yeah, a couple of other examples. I prepared a couple of other examples. And I probably just want to switch to this one here, which is also created with a PDF compressor. Again, the body is in the master file. It's a PDFA3 file, so you would expect to have some attachments that are in here that are not PDFA. In this case, it's the EML file, and on the pages, we only have the body, which is not making sense because the attachments are not converted. There's another PDFA3 file where I think we will have the attachments in original here, and again only the body in here, which is also not good because the attachments are not archival material here. But again, I told you about the settings. You can create any combination of that. Let's say a PDFA3 file with PDFA versions and the original born digital documents attached, or any other version of the formats that of the organization that I introduced to you before. Probably we're over time after.
No, we should come to the job list mode. And
oh yeah, there was one question about the job list mode, or let's say about the integration into other processes. That's very important. I told you in the 5 minutes with the solution there's ways to integrate it into other processes. And the most easiest way to integrate it into other processes that is also completely platform independent, you can control that from Linux as well as from any other operating system, is using the so-called job list processing. So what you do then is, you don't have a list of jobs configured in the PDF compressor here. The PDF compressor just looks into an agreed folder that is under main options up here, where you drop job lists. That's ASCII files. So all the settings that we have in the PDF compressor can also be put into a long job list. Easiest way to create it, save job as, then you have all the properties, then you set the properties in there and feed the compressor with job lists. And most of our customers do that because it's so easy. Yeah? You just really, with a batch, with a job, with an individual file, whatever, throw a job list in there. And in the job list is where it is, where to put it to, and all the settings. It has semaphore files, start, ready, go files, so that any process can totally get to that. On top of that, a little bit about the roadmap. A feature of this year will be that we have a programmatic interface to that. Will be .NET way of doing it. It will also be a DLL exported functions, and you can set on top of that, of course, a web service to have even more programmatic access to that. But up and so far we use the job list mode. You can create a web service around the job list mode if you like, but you can control that from every process. Might it be a scan software, might it be an email server script or whatever that can create a job list like that in ASCII. And then also with the semaphore files have a ready and go mechanism and know when to pick up the ready results and go on processing. It's the most easiest and most ubiquitous way of doing it. Okay, and then wait for the version, I don't know, 7.2 maybe in summer sometime. Then you also get the API in the web service. Out of the box. I could go on forever, but I'm gonna save you. It's about lunchtime. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lunch is in the restaurant.